Ace, I'm recording too from the start.
Okay, let me go ahead and officially welcome you all to another one of our paid co-founder trainings we do at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Mondays and Thursdays. Today has happened to be our Monday edition on October 6th, 2025. And um, thank you for being here. Okay, so we just got through watching a number of videos that, a while back I put together using an AI tool talking about more or less that we have a choice in this life as to how we want to live our lives. Do we want to live our lives under the master of love or under the master of fear? If it comes right down to it, pretty much any kind of choice you make is going to be serving one of those masters, you know. And so you need to be a little bit more conscientious of your own choices and your own thinking and your own feelings and realize that you have a response ability to choose wisely so that you can live a life that has as much potential for enjoyment and happiness as possible, which I believe is one that leans towards love instead of fear. Those that are embedded in fear will find themselves with a consistent state of misery that prevails over everything going on in their life. And this is an opportunity to question that and maybe come and be a part of a community that is more driven towards love than fear. Now, even though there are some dark things that we have to, look at in this world, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to approach those dark things with the lens of fear. We can actually look at them more from like, okay, we can be aware of that, but we can also be aware that there is great power within each individual, even if the individual has forgotten about their power, the power is there regardless. Okay. And so if I can wake up some of you out of maybe a state of fear into a state of love and recognize that through that, you have the opportunity here in Pull Funding to unite with good people and for good people to come together to do good things together, right? And in a world that can, is pretty chaotic and full of confusion, we can operate in a way that we can accelerate, our well-being, starting with financial opportunities, because that's kind of what the focus of Pull Funding is. It's kind of a financial aspect of the approach to lift the world in a loving way. Okay. So, and I was just mentioning too that I have not been very, very well the last couple of days due to some a pinched nerve in the middle of my back. And it's been something I've been doing everything I can to get some relief. And I've got an appointment with a chiropractor this afternoon. So pretty sure that we'll be able to, you know, get past this minor situation, but it's very difficult for me to communicate on Telegram or wherever if I'm in kind of a state of pain or any kind of a clouded state because of not feeling well. But it's just a short-term thing. All right, so that kind of recaps where I want to start off the conversation today. I want you all to realize that we're in the process of sorting out our own community to figure out who's really with us and who isn't. We all kind of come in with the idea that we're a co-owner, if you will, right? I like to use that. That seems to resonate more clearly the message I like people to have than co-founder, right? When you see yourself as a co-owner, you realize that our collective equity that we're building up within our coins doesn't belong to any one of us individually, but actually belongs to us collectively, and we want to protect it. Now, some people only see the dollar signs and in front of them on a screen and become very possessive, and they're not seeing it in the proper way. And in fact, if you look at it, greed is a derivative of fear. So if you're fear-based, you're probably going to see those numbers from a greedy point of view, and maybe do some things that will probably, sabotage your ability to inherit what we're actually, building up together. So some people have already self-eliminated, okay? And we did a purge on the beginning of the month, uh, basically to anybody who's inactive or that isn't verified. We have put their account in suspension, and then they need to go to a member of the executive team case by case to work out their standing in the organization, and hopefully most people will be willing to do what it takes to become active. Like, you become active for just $1 a day, so that's the minimum we're talking about here. But what that will do is that will secure your holdings, okay? And just to make that clear, how powerful the holdings are, let me show you mine. Let's see here. Okay, so for example, I'll just refresh this. So what's being held for me, for example, in the PFS coin, has a value based on the new coin value of over $3 million. Okay. And that was accumulated as a result of basically doing $100 a day for 304 days. Okay. That's what created that situation over here. Okay. But does that mean if I were to have that entire amount, I could go and sell all of it? No, that's not what that means, but it is an equity position. Okay. It is an equity position. And if you do a comparison, oh, by the way, people that self-eliminate, basically whatever is being held is now zeroed out. Okay, so when your account's suspended, you're effectively at zero when it comes to your holdings, because unless your account gets back into good standing, you'll never see, these numbers will never see the light of day in your wallet. Okay. So that's the risk some people take by prematurely selling and things like that. They're really basically trading what they have in their wallet against what they have in their holdings. And, to me, a little foolish to do that. Okay. All right. Now, so I want to share a chart with you real quick. Let me just grab it from my binder here. This one here. I took a snapshot of this just before the meeting here. This is our PML coin. Okay. I want you to take note of a couple of things. First of all, take note that there was about $512 being sold here against only about $190 coming in. And you don't see a huge candle, red candle, because of the 500 there. Okay. Why is that? Why is that 500, a negative 500 doesn't make a big negative candle on the PML coin? Okay. When you compare that to, if you take a look at some of our other coins here, for example, PFG here, okay. Uh, okay, like you see this drop right here from 600,000 down to 140,000. So basically, almost a $500,000, down, right? Because this one just doesn't have the same price stability built into it that we've already achieved with PML. So we've already achieved some degree of price stability, but we have not gotten it yet in PFG or any other coins for that matter. Okay. So PFI, same thing. You've seen some drops here. So you've seen some people that, they have decided to self-eliminate. And as a result, they're taking their marbles out of the game, and their holdings are gone. They'll never see the light of day of their holdings. We know who they are. We have an idea why they're doing what they're doing, but again, they're not coming from a place of collective good unity. They're just looking out for themselves only, and that's it. So, but the point is, our pool funding coins, all four of them, have not got anywhere near price stability, even though they've been around a long time. Like this one has been around for 2 years, but it hasn't achieved price stability. Okay. And yet, when you look at our PML coin, I'll move this out of the way. When you look at our PML coin, here's the entire history. It's 2 months old. It started back here. And I don't know if you guys can see that, but it kind of goes like this, and then it kind of comes up here, goes up like that. Here's Kay. I remember when Kay came in and she pumped it big time. Okay. And then it's been consistently going up. Okay. And we've had far more cooperation on the PML coin to date than we have had so far with the other four coins. We have 774 users here, for example, right? And the other coins, some of them have even less than that. For example, if you look at PFS, 442 there. PFG, okay, it's about 760 here. So that they're about even as far as the number of holders. PFB, a lot of holders here, about 2,500. And PFI, about 2,200 holders there. Okay. But the majority of them, really, when you look at dollar and cents, what they're holding, very, very small. Okay. So most of the people that we're going to self-eliminate have self-eliminated. There may be a few more, but they're basically running out of ammunition to do much more damage than the damage they've already done to the charts. And, we know that those charts don't have much meaning against the new coins that are going to be coming out very soon. We've earmarked the 15th for basically the transition. That's not a solid date. That's a date that we hope to make happen, but it could happen a little bit after that. But it's going to happen probably in October, regardless, whether it's the 15th or some other time in October. Going to probably happen in October that we make the transition. And those that are, truly trustworthy will come with us, and those that are not, they have the old coin, and they won't have any holdings to go with it. Okay. So that was basically going to be a reset. All right. So we're doing our own little house cleaning here, our own little cleanup, because in order to protect those that have put considerable money into pool funding, we want to protect, let's just call it the whales. We want to protect the whales. Okay. The whales have come in and provided a backbone for us to move forward. We appreciate them very much. And we need to protect, anything that the whales have done. And that's why we're going into the new coins, and those are all going to start at the new, the value of 500,000, 1 million, 2 million, 4 million. Those are going to be the opening value and all that. So just get ready for this transition where the new coins are not going to have, the sellers or saboteurs or any name you want to give them. They just won't exist on the new coins as we move into them. And we have about a year that these will be in what we call a smart contract, and that'll give us a year to build up our speed, momentum, and everything else necessary in order to justify opening up those values back into the wallets of each person in every well and all that, everybody involved. Okay, so that's a lot being said. And I'm not even sure if I'm being that clear because I'm still, like I said, I'm still a little bit, um, you know, a little bit in a daze, if you will, because of the back pain. But it's more of a numb thing right now, more of a numb annoyance at this point. Not a sharp pain. So that's the good news, what I'm experiencing right now. But need to get that corrected. But we need to understand that we're in October, the month of transition. Why are we transitioning? Because going back to the original premise of why even create pool funding is a place where the good people can gather and unite with other good people to do good things. Okay. Now, when I think about good things, violence doesn't come to mind. So there's nothing about what we're going to do that would come across as any form of violence. Okay. Even though we can get emotional, we can have those type of feelings from time to time. It doesn't mean that we take action in any kind of way that's violent. So but realize that as much as we might be upset with fellow members who have chosen to basically self-eliminate, really we should redirect those feelings that we might have towards them, towards the people who set up the trap in the first place, that, the big, controllers, if you will, that have created a financial situation where it's got everybody just like a hamster running on a wheel, and you're just spending your life and your life energy just going in circles, not really moving ahead, and maybe even falling back, year after year, as inflation eats away the buying power of your money. And you can see that AI is definitely here. And so AI is definitely going to be embedded in whatever system the future brings forward. Um, I have a unique way of looking at the situation, in the sense that I don't see only one timeline, but I actually see multiple timelines. And I believe that we each on an individual level choose the timeline that we want to be on. And this is why being love centered is probably the best choice that you can make, because that's gonna create the best outcome for you as an individual, to be on a higher timeline with less pain and suffering. People that are really deep into the fear-based timelines, they may experience a great deal of pain as a result. And I don't think that that's true for everyone. I think there's really a split happening in humanity, and people are either drawn this way or drawn that way, but there's a huge gap in the middle that's getting very clear. That's an empty void between those caught up in fear against those that are caught up with the power of love, that can guide us into still make life worth living, regardless of whatever situations that are apparent in anybody's life at any time. But the power to improve is there, and love is the best way to do it. So if you want to improve your situation, make it better, teaming up with us is a good way to do that. We have the tools, we have the systems, we have the support team. You know, while I've been away, thank goodness we've had this executive team that you communicate with, right? So, that's in place. And then, even though I've been, kind of away for a couple of days offline, taking some rest, the executive team have been there to make sure that everything works out for those that really have a need for this, that, or the other. So, again, really good support system. And we're going to get through this transition. On the other side of the transition will be those that we really trust coming together. We'll get even more familiar with each other as we identify who can be really trusted. And those that are not trusted, they basically are self-eliminating. They're just going to sell the coin. So again, the values of the old coin, it's disturbing to see, large drops, right? It's very disturbing to see that. But on the other hand, a little bit of buying can push them right back up. Like some of these coins, like, if it only took $200 to drop it, $500,000, $200 or $300 can bring it right back, you know. So it doesn't take a lot of money to create those kind of moves. For those that were looking to accumulate, as much as they can before the transition, because realize anything you do before the transition is probably 1,000x, so whatever you can do, you can probably expect to get a 1,000 times return on that in equity on the other side. Okay, and that'll put you in a good position. And if you manage to get yourself into a well spot and hold that, then you have some authority within the community because a lot of the decision making is going to be collectively done there. Okay, in that group of people. So I'm just one person out of that group. So I'll present things and ideas, and then they'll make sense or they won't, or others will in the group will present things. And again, that's how we're going to make our way forward. Okay. So yeah, um, I'm not really in touch where you guys are because I've been out of touch for a couple of days, and so I'm really out of sync. I don't have any idea where you're at. Normally, I watch the Wall of Joy as an indicator. Yeah, that's my main indicator of where the community is because I watch what people are saying there and how people are reacting there. And I'm only 400, 500 comments behind on even looking at that, so I don't really know. But I do know that we've had some major sell-offs that, you know, well, it's unfortunate for those that want to sell for loose change, because they're really leaving behind what I think most of these guys are leaving behind millions of dollars that if they would just hang in there, we're not talking that long, just hang in there and realize that the cash flow machine needs the attention, right? If we put our attention on the cash flow machine, that produces cash flow that produces USDT coin that doesn't require you to sell, on the market. There you go. The PML coin, it's already demonstrating that it's going to become a rival to the other platforms out there that are offering, collateral-based money. So using your crypto as collateral and getting your coins back after you pay off the loan. So, but it's done on a micro basis, micro lending. So as we create price stability in the PML coin, and we've accomplished a lot. I'd say we're ahead of the game based on what my estimations were before starting it. I think we're actually ahead at the moment, where I thought we would be by now. And so that means that we're more likely just weeks away from solid price stability. And what does that mean? Solid price stability would allow us to turn selling on, and there's enough buying pressure happening ongoing as a result of the stability that the little bit of selling that would take place when we turn selling on is swooped up and gobbled up by those that are coming in and buy because you have an incentive to buy. You need at least $100 of PML in order to get paid training. So that's going to be an ongoing reason to buy as we continue to grow. So imagine that just being, the ability to sell being on all the time. Okay, so right now it's like a switch on, off, on, off, on, off. It's currently off, right? And so far we've turned it on twice since we turned it into a switch. And the selling took place pretty fast. It was pretty furious. The price went down really fast. And it wasn't enough time for people to come in and buy it back up. But that will change. What will happen is that we'll have more people coming in to buy and fewer people seeing the need to sell because unless you got $6,000 of PML, why are you selling any of it? Doesn't make sense. You want to accumulate to that point because that ultimately can create a point where you can make $3,000 a month. And with price stability, the few people that are actually at the point where they have $3,000 a month coming in as a result of, they've built up to the point of having 6,000 to begin with to be able to accomplish that. They can sell as they need. A few $100 here, a few $100, maybe at the end of the month, it adds up to $3,000 a month. Okay, that's the whole point. Is let people that have accumulated $6,000, then they should be the main sellers, right? Everybody else shouldn't be, right? So that'd be like maybe like 1 or 2% of the people selling against 98% of the people not selling, and And then you've got growth, and people need to pay $100 to participate in paid training, which will expand. It's right now it's 300, but the next step is 500. So we'll expand it from 300 to 500. But again, we're gathering people that are trusted. So this is the whole point. We're just gonna move forward and build trust. And as we do so, then that sister website uh, creates a way to create cash flow without recruiting. So there's no recruiting involved in PML. You could just go ahead and put in a loan, and your money will double, right? And so that's going to be a good example towards the future when we a year from now, when we open up everybody's smart contracts. By that point, we'll have at least one relationship with a big platform like Aave, that you could then take coins in there as needed to borrow against them, using those platforms, and to the tune of like millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, or maybe you need to do something small, thousands of dollars or tens of thousands. But at least you'll have the ability to do that a year from now. So the PML is just basically a demonstration what can be done, and it's scalable to something much larger, right? What's much larger already exists. It's just that we don't have an agreement in place with a platform like Aave yet. But give me a year and help me succeed at creating a good looking community and a good looking chart that can be presented to those platforms a year from now, and say we're worthy of being brought in as a coin that's worth putting on the platform. That would really open things up. So stage two of the price. Let me just share my screen. So this is what we're doing. So in price development, okay, this is where we're at with PML right now. On PF on the pool funding coins, we're still at stage one. Okay, so it's been the sellers have kicked us pretty hard here, so we've had a lot of setbacks on all the four pool funding coins, but that's why we've got new ones coming out. And by the time we start doing the economic development, that will solidify everything we're doing in stage two. Okay, so we have a clear path here, but we can't allow people to just come in, and just do whatever they want. We need certain guidelines that everybody follows, and then we work together as a group to achieve things. Okay, and in a way, consider this um, consider this a good experience towards what we're all going to face at some point. Okay, I'm not sure how much trouble or how much darkness we may need to pass through, even on the higher timelines. Um, you know, um, where it becomes very clear that the people that have power, okay, to do things like shut the entire world down. You guys remember 2020? Okay. The entire world got shut down. Okay. That was to me a flex by the opposing team. Okay. And maybe some of you still might believe that that was for everyone's benefit or good. Okay, I'm going to call ignorance on that on your part. If you think that was a good thing, it was not. And uh, you just need to look into it. Each one's got to study these things out for themselves. So you can have your own opinion, of course, but my opinion is based on a lot of research. I've actually done a lot of research. I've done probably, if I would compare myself to 100 people, I'd be number one out of 100. So like 99 other people would have not done nearly as much research on the matter as what I have done. Okay. So most people just don't spend the time looking into things or researching anything. They just kind of live their life and whatever. And that's fine. You know, we each have our own calling, if you will. Okay. So um, imagine if they were to shut down the whole world again because of a financial crisis. And the solution was, okay, now the whole world is going to be under one currency, one government. Let's just say it out loud, one religion. Okay. That's the plan, by the way. Imagine them
No,
shutting down the whole world and saying you can't leave your house until we get to you and you know, basically mark you or whatever process they want to do. But if they actually did that, would they succeed today? On the high timeline, I don't think so. On a low timeline, probably they'll succeed. Okay. But on a high timeline, they won't. And I believe I'm currently sitting on a high timeline. If you're listening to me, most likely you're on a high timeline too. And on the high timeline, they will not succeed at shutting the whole world down and forcing people into you know, a single uh unification of power, and everybody has to be subject to it. You know, we're talking about like the elimination of countries, right? Basically, there won't be any countries. There'll just be just one global, you one global controlling party. Okay. So, and if you do a deep dive on their timeline to make that happen, it's 2030. Okay. I don't think they're anywhere close to pulling that off. I don't think they can pull off 2030. They got way too much to do to get to make it on this high timeline that we're currently sitting at. And yeah, so this is our window to basically demonstrate the unity of people, because I don't know about you, but I know for a fact that as an individual standing alone, if I had to fight off something like that, there's nothing I can do, right? I mean, I go back to 2020. I was surprised by 2020. I didn't see a global shutdown of the whole world. I didn't, that wasn't in my radar. Didn't see it coming before it happened. But it happened regardless. And I remember right on the street right here, right by my outdoor office, there were troops that were actually marching up and down my street, military with guns. Okay. The big guns, you know, the rifle kind. Okay. You know, yeah. So, you know, the whole 2020 thing on my particular street was pretty darn serious. Like, what am I going to do except for just, you know, comply? But they never broached my doorstep. Never once did they come to my door and make a demand. Okay. They might have been on my street, public domain, if you will, but they didn't get onto private property. They never interfered with me. I never interfered with them. Everything was fine. But hey, you know, if it comes to my doorstep, you know, then you know, then I just protect myself as best as I can. You know what I'm saying? But again, as an individual, probably a losing battle, you know. But I'll never give in to tyranny, right? I'm not going to succumb to it. I'm not going to fold. I'm not going to give up, you know. Even my life doesn't seem worth living without freedom. Okay, so even if the result is the loss of life for myself, you know, in fighting to protect my freedom, my personal freedom, you know, my personal property, then I'm going to do that, you know, because what choice do I have? It's, you know, so but the fact is, it didn't get that far, and I don't think it'll ever get that far for any of us, but it could. And the fact that it could means that we should be thinking about what can we do. The best medicine is prevention. Okay. We don't want to wait for tyranny to be, already the boot on your neck, okay, level tyranny before we start to take action. Okay. That's too late. Best time to take action is in peaceful moments like the one we're in now. I would consider 99% of the world is in a peaceful moment at the moment. Okay. Now there's hot spots around the world where people are, dying and starving to death, and let's just face it, poverty is a horrible thing for people to go through. Okay. And it's getting worse in that regard. But tyranny wise, it's not in the face of most people. So 99% of us on the planet are fine right this moment. This is the right time to get together. This is the right time to have the conversation. This is the right time to open our eyes just a little bit more to see that the danger is real. But we don't have to fear the danger. We just have to recognize that there is power in unity. Okay. Imagine the unity I'm talking about growing into something that it becomes its own power. Okay. A power that each of us within it can rely, lean on and say, we start to have the power to, say we disagree with this or we disagree with that in a non-violent way, in a way that, I mean, there's lots of examples in history of what I'm talking about here of non-violence being the most successful path to push back tyranny and to push back the loss of freedom. Okay, lots of examples in history. So we don't have to carve a new path. We just follow the same path that we know works, and that is that you gather, okay, you unite, and then you do constructive things that help the individuals that have united. Okay, in terms of what we're doing, we're trying to help people financially. Okay, others may be gathering people to help people spiritually, and so on and so on. Okay, so there's different groupings for different reasons, but you group together to gain power, and inside that power, as the collective power, we work in a unified way to basically move a positive agenda forward, right? Bring some common sense to confusing situations. Okay, and that's where it's at. And I think when it comes to the finance, we can make this very clear that a system built on debt just doesn't make sense. It's already run its course, it's already at its end, and there's no way to keep it going. We can already agree that the debt-based system is on its way out. What's going to replace it is the question. Is it going to be this AI-driven Palantir, central uh, you know, intelligent force that monitors every single thing you do at the individual level, like in a video that I played earlier, and so that you have some what you might consider some order to society, right? That's done by a top-down, complete total control, tyrannical approach, or is it going to be driven by people that recognize the value of sovereignty at the individual level and respect it? And we teach mutual respect to the individual sovereignty of every single individual. We recognize the sovereignty, and then after recognizing it, we do things to help empower the individual in mass by helping them establish equity that grows and cash flow to go with it. Okay. And then people have, on an individual level, financial power, so they can't be tricked into their own enslavement by a tyrannical system that wants to come crashing the doors down and pushing its way through. Okay. See, if enough of us gather and understand these things I'm talking about, okay, if we all just have a basic understanding of it, that's enough. That's enough to say, okay, we are a force of common sense, okay, and believe me, that can win. That can win big time because our battle is not with our neighbor. It's not the person across the street. It's not even the person in the other bedroom of your house. Okay. That's not our battle. Our battle is really the few people that we don't even know their names of those people. They're hidden from, the ones pulling the strings. Okay. There's so few of them that their identity, if it were ever known, would foil their plan. So think about that. Think about that for a minute. If in you could call it an information war, what happens in an information war where we can identify the puppet masters and everybody knows who they are and what they're up to? How could they possibly win when they've been exposed? No way. So we can move on to a different way of life, a life built on equity, okay, not debt, okay, because that's what's going to make sense and that's what's sustainable. But how do we prove it? How do we prove this idea in a world that's so bizarro and upside down as it is? Because we all have habits that are tied to a debt-based system. Like we get coin in our hand and we want to sell it. Okay. Okay. That feeds right into the debt-based system instead of holding it for long-term equity, right? And using the website as a way to cash flow. So these are the habits that we have to break on an individual level. You say, look, you have to make a choice here. Make a choice to build equity with us and see it as a sacred trust, a collective sacred trust that's decentralized. There's not like one pot of gold that we're all protecting. The pot of gold is in each of your wallets. There's thousands of your wallets, and the pot of gold is split between all of your wallets. So that's where the sacred trust comes in. Okay, that's the whole nature of decentralized finance. But we have to recognize that when we go to the market and we sell the coin, it's going to make the price go down. Okay. Now, if we have price stability, it might not go down that much, but it will go down. Okay. If we don't have price stability, it can go down a lot. Okay. So recognize, I've already shared with you the difference between PML and the pool funding coins. One's got more price stability. The others have like practically none at this point, and it's okay. It's bargain shopping for the people that really want to position themselves well on the new coin while that window's still open. So when people see that that makes more sense, and then we get a bigger group and a bigger group, and we get bigger, and the trust grows with that, then at some point, it'll just catch on, like so many other things catch on. Okay, and it takes on a power of its own, and it becomes like the idea that can't be killed, right? That's what they say. You can kill a person, but you can't kill an idea, right? So the whole point is to get this to that point where it's an idea that's out there. Enough people know that no matter what, the idea survives no matter what, might be thrown at us, you know what I'm saying? But we're not doing anything to, have anything serious thrown at us. Okay. We're doing things in a way that, we'll just say they're lawful, right? And we're looking to put things together like a foundation and other things to add additional shielding and protection for all of us. But we're at the stage of this is the stage of we're just gathering the people who are going to start this thing. That's what we're at right now. Okay, that's the stage we're in, and we're about to move into the foundation. And then from there, I think we'll be unstoppable once we have that in place. So the great thing about the foundation, if anything ever happens to me, then the board of the foundation, which is basically going to consist of the wells. So if you're a well, you'll be on the board. That's how it works. So if you're a well, you're going to be on the board of the foundation. And no matter what happens to me, I'm mortal, so anything can happen, right? So if anything happens to me, the board takes over, and then maybe they identify someone to take the leadership role, from that point. And but again, even today, this is more a collective will of the wells today than it was 2 years ago when I started this thing. Okay, the wells have a lot of influence even right now, and the wells are going to be the one driving this thing forward. So if you want to be a well, by all means, take the invitation and come be a part of it. But that window is going to close. It's not going to be, it's not going to be easy to get into being a well after we do the transition to the new coin. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to cost a lot more money. So once the foundation is in place, then we will be able to engage both civic and financial institutions alike, and be able to correspond as needed and operate in legal ways that's acceptable, right? And all that. And so this is why we're being very selective on where we put the foundation, because things like taxes and things like that, are a concern. And we want to basically have no tax on the foundation. So we found a jurisdiction that can do that. There's actually multiple jurisdictions that can do that, but one particular one is, we're leaning in one direction so far, but that could change. Okay, again, the wells have a lot to say when it comes to this. All right, so that's a whole bunch of information. So I hope that each of you understand that what happened yesterday or what happened over the weekend is, kind of like a small part to the bigger story. Today, you got the big story, you got the big picture. You just realize that there's going to be ups and downs on the way going to where we're going. And, just understand the core thing is that I don't want to stand alone on my doorstep if tyranny comes knocking. Do you? That should be the question you should ask yourself, because if you don't want to stand alone, you found a home here, because we're gathering together not to fight tyranny, but to create a better way of, a better financial way moving forward that tyranny doesn't you have a part in. There's no need for tyranny in a system that's built on equity. Okay. There's no need for it. Equity and sovereignty. That's what we want to empower. And by empowering that, that's not fighting. That's not going against, that's not tearing down or breaking up anything, right? We're not anti anything. We're just simply for something that's positive, like love. Okay. And that's the beauty of it. That's what wins at the end of the day. That's how we get where we want to go, by uniting at that level. Now, there's lots of business opportunities out there, and I've seen many of you jumping around from this, that, and the other, and that's fine. I'm not a big fan of jumpers, but I recognize that people do that. But realize that pool funding is different. We're not just an opportunity. If you look at us as only an opportunity, then you're kind of missing the point of what we really are. What we really are is the beginning of a movement that will lead towards each and every one of us listening to my voice right now having greater fulfillment. Okay, your personal fulfillment, and the role that we play is going to depend on the individual. Some will play major parts, some will play minor parts. But even in that minor part, if the collective provides the person a foundation that their minor role can be done with joy, then we've succeeded. Okay. We're not here to, for, titles or glory or any of that. That's really secondary. It's not even not even that important. What really matters is each of you can identify what you want, what kind of life that you want to have. And as long as there's not something, crushing your freedom, then what kind of life can you have in that environment?
It's sweet, but
That's what we're after here. Okay. That's what we're after. So, um, each of us are going to step up the way that we're going to step up. And probably 99% of the people, maybe 99.9% of the people in our organization will play just minor, tiny roles in the way of what is going to happen moving forward. In that there's not huge obligations or expectations placed on anyone. Okay. And then they're free to enjoy the benefits of being a part of a large group that's going somewhere that's going to benefit everyone in the group. That's the whole point, right? That's a system that makes sense, right? It doesn't make sense to create a system that everybody has got to, put 100% of everything they got into it. That system won't work, right? But hey, if everybody could just put in maybe a tenth of 1% of what they got in when it comes to their thoughts, their emotions, their attention. Okay. I'm not even talking about money, but just the attention. Even if we could just get people to contribute, a tenth of 1% of their attention into pool funding, and that was the normal thing for 99.9% of our members, this will work. This will work beautifully. But there are just certain things we have to do. We have to do it right. And that's why you guys come here for training, so that you learn what's next and what's next and what's next. You don't have to guess. You'll be guided. And if there's ever like a concern or a question, you have the ability to speak out, okay, and say something. So with that being said, I'm going to open up the floor to anyone that wants to speak out. Who would like to say something? Who would like to go first and say something in response to this long monologue today? Jeffrey, you're unmuted.
I'm just saying, I hope you're feeling better. We're the true people dedicated are with you. We understand and hope you just feel better soon.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. All right. Well, it's not just about me, and I do appreciate that. All the people that have been praying and sending, good vibes my way, I appreciate all of that. I've seen so many comments. I haven't had a chance to open up each one, but I've seen them, and I do appreciate, that. Of course, it's making a difference, and that's why I'm able to come here. Like yesterday, I wasn't sure if I'm going to do the training or not, because the way I was feeling yesterday, it would be impossible for me to talk to you. If I had to be in that same condition, but right now I'm not. I feel relatively good. I just don't feel perfect yet. So we'll get that settled at the chiropractor this afternoon. All right, anybody else?
Well, that's a good sign, at least, that you're feeling better, Ace. You're feeling better, like, within the last 24 hours or so. It's a good sign.
Yeah, thank you so much. It is a good sign. Joe, what's on your mind, Joe?
Well, I just wanted to piggyback on what you said about, the state of things today, how things are out there. I think it's important for all of us. Number one, we're getting together as a group, as a collective mindset, working toward fulfilling, the goal of pool funding, which is cooperation, collaboration, lifting one another up. And we come to the meetings to get some of that. And getting our minds right, which means don't pay so much attention to what's going on outside. It's best to work on ourselves from the inside out And once we get our mindset to a point where we are operating from love, it's when you're operating and coming from love, it's almost impossible to do anything to someone.
Right.
So we help one another in that way. And to get that mindset and operate from it. That's the whole thing. It's okay to think about it and feel it, but to operate and go throughout the day with that mindset so that no matter what comes from the outside, we're solid in ourselves, that it doesn't matter. And we take everything in stride. We don't get upset. We don't, get angry with someone who says something. It's just a solid foundation, a sovereignty from within. And the more that we do that and cultivate that as a group and individually, you know what, this is going to grow and grow, and we're all going to get where we want to go, and if you just believe and it shall be so. So
Yeah.
just wanted to add that in.
That last statement was a powerful one. Appreciate that. Good way to wrap up
Yeah.
your comment there. Yeah, thank you, Joe. You definitely put your money where your mouth is. So there's that. Okay. So, I appreciate, that whole, no, everything you said is so supportive of what I was saying for about an hour. You just kind of summed it up. And so,
Joe's got a way of doing that, Ace.
what's that?
Joe's gifted with being able to do that.
Yeah.
He's
yeah,
able to be very succinct.
Yeah. He's got some clear
You're
thinking.
gifted.
working
Equally,
for
you're
him.
gifted.
Yeah. Yep. And we appreciate your gift, Lindsay, that you're just like, you emanate love, just your even just your facial expressions it's just like a sunshine of love, so you just embody love with the kind of person you are, even if you said nothing, you might not be really articulate in what you want to say, perhaps, but you can, you definitely make people feel it just by your presence. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Ace.
All right, and then we got Hunter, who's been, keeping things rolling along here for quite a while. We appreciate everything he does behind the scenes and here as our host. Go ahead, Hunter. You got your hand up.
In the words of the 12th Doctor, hate is always foolish and love is always wise.
That's a nice one. Yeah, short and sweet. So how excited is everybody about the transition from the old coins to the new coins? Are we excited about this transition?
Woo!
Yes,
Yes,
very
we're all
excited.
excited. Yes.
Yes,
I think
it's exciting, exciting.
Yes, exciting.
Just
Another
gotta
chapter.
hang in there.
It
Some
can't come soon enough.
Yeah,
Yes.
some people haven't been
I'm
able to hang in there, but
super excited.
you're super excited. Well, thank you, Cheryl. We appreciate you and for
Thank you.
your role. So anyway, I think you're going to see a lot more of Cheryl, by the way, guys, as we move forward here. She has certain abilities that just fit hand in glove with what we're trying to do here in pool funding. So you'll see more of
Aw,
her.
thank you, Ace.
Appreciate you very
You
much.
thank you. Thank you. And I just got home, but I
Yeah.
listened to you on the way home from the airport. So
Oh, okay. You
It
got
was
the
great.
Yeah. Okay.
no, I
good.
got the whole thing. I got the whole thing.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah.
Excellent. All right. So I think that's a good place to wrap it up. So I just love and appreciate each and every one of you. You all matter to me, even if I don't communicate with you daily. You can feel my love for you when you meet with me, even on a one-on-one basis. Hopefully you can sense that. Some people take that advantage of that. So sometimes I get I get cornered in situations where people want to, kind of push their personal problems onto me, and I have to kind of gently kind of push them back in their corner. You know what I'm saying? So it's, but I I do love each and every one of you. I love, generally speaking, I love humanity. I love what we are as a species. That what I see so much more potential than what we're actually demonstrating at the moment. And I like to see humanity expand into what I can clearly see as possible for humanity. And doggone it, the only thing in the way is these darn parasites that kind of run everything. Hey, Kay, good to see you too. And these darn parasites that kind of be running everything, and they're creating this very confusing puppet show every day. And on one hand, the puppet show can be very entertaining, but it's also alarming on another hand. And let me just wrap it up by sharing one last personal story, and then we'll call it a day here. I used to have my own talk show. Okay, I used to on Saturdays from 11 a.m. till noon, I had my own broadcast, my own talk radio show. I was on the biggest AM channel for talk radio in the state that I was in at that time. And I was talking about these same things, but I was talking about freedom. I was talking about, the parasites that are running things, and something needs to be done, and da 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 da. Well, I got a phone call, mysterious phone call, because I had a talk radio show, so it was a call-in show. So people would call in, they'd talk to me, and I'd do my little monologue, and then it'd be a call-in show after that. But someone called me off air. Someone called me direct on my direct line. Okay, and they were extending an invitation to me. And they were kind of mysterious because they didn't really explain who they were. They just said that they were part of something that's known as the Alliance. Okay. And they referred to themselves as the White Hats. And they were inviting me to join them. Okay. And so I had some questions, when they reached out to me. I said, well, let me ask you this, let's say if I joined you guys, what would that mean exactly? Would I have to keep a bunch of secrets? And they said, yeah, you'd have to keep a bunch of secrets. And I said, I think we can just stop talking right there, because that's just not going to work for me. I'm not the kind of guy that wants to keep secrets. Okay. I'd rather deal with things out in the open, and that's who I am. So I don't know, to me, I can't really trust something that's going to be done in total secret. I don't really trust that. And then they respected me. They said, well, we hear you. And we respect that you've got your own way of doing things, and that's fine. We appreciate what you're doing. We know who you are and what you're doing, and we think it's good. But just forget you ever got this phone call, okay? That's how the call ended. Just forget you ever got the phone call. Well, I never forgot that I got the phone call, but this is one of the few times I've ever brought up that I got such a phone call, And so, and that goes back, 20 years ago. About 20 years ago, I had that phone call. So they're watching. They're watching. And that's why if we do things in a way that's not disruptive, right? We're just talking to each other, and we're doing it in a nice way, right? We're not promoting violence. We're not promoting hatred, right? We're not really saying we need to be against anything. We're just out building something together, right? That's not something that if someone wanted to, attack us, they wouldn't have much to attack, right? Be aware that I'm playing the game as smart as I can, that look, I know they're watching. Every time I open up my laptop computer, I figure every single keystroke, every single action I take on this laptop is being recorded, right? And I just take that as like that's a given, right? But I'm not here doing anything that would create a problem for most people. All I'm doing is sharing some principles, some truths, some ideas, and gathering people to make a better way for themselves. But it's going to take that mutual interest, right? We have to look at this as we get ahead by mutual interest instead of individual interest. You can only go so far in individual interest. Boom. Yeah, that's it. But with mutual interest, we can gather the numbers of people participating in mutual interest, and then our power grows with it exponentially. And there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, nothing wrong with that, because I can name 1,000 names of things that have got big, and it's great in their own categories. So realize we don't have really anything to fear as long as we do things in a way that are good. But at the same time, don't be naive enough to think that no one's paying attention. Of course, they're paying attention. Yeah, they are paying attention. And that's why I do things in a way that I do them, because my first principle, and maybe you should adopt this as your first principle. I'm talking to each one of you. You. Okay, so I'm talking to you. First principle, do no harm. Okay, so as we push our agenda forward, it needs to be done in a way that it's not bringing harm to anyone. People have choice, they have opportunities, they can elect or not, they can come in or not, but there's no force, there's no, no one's getting hurt. People, we try to be upfront as much as possible and to try to bring in clarity on the front end as much as we can. And I say that in that way because sometimes clarity comes in layers. And so you get a message tends to become more clear over time because you just find a better way of communicating it over time that resonates. So that's why I say, we're going to do our best to be upfront and clear about what we're doing and how we're doing it and why we're doing it. And no one can shoot it down because we're not coming from a place that is an easy target. We're not extremists. That'd be like calling a farmer an extremist. Okay, if you think a farmer is an extremist, then okay, then you have a radical idea of what a farmer is all about. We're just a group of people, right? Much like a farmer, who just cares about what they're doing and wants to carry on a life that's good and believes in freedom. And in fact, we're sold the idea of freedom by the very governments that are taking it away. But it's not everyone in the government, right? We don't, if everyone in the government were a problem, there would be no freedom right now. That's you have to know that, right? So the fact that there's a battle going on there inside the walls of government, inside the walls of every institution, there are battles between, there's the morality battle going on everywhere. And the good news is that there's enough people that are, morally clean embedded everywhere in every possible institution you can think of, that they're providing balance for the rest of us to have a relatively peaceful life. Thank God for them. We appreciate that. But we want to take it a step further in the sense that we just want to educate people out of a debt-based system into an equity-based system. Okay. And if we get enough people for an equity-based system, that could change everything. Humanity could flourish like never before, ever, on something that's completely equity-based. Okay, give that some thought. So thank you all for coming. I think maybe we could wrap this up and say, all for one and one for all, right? How about that? Because we're in it together, guys. So all for one and one for all.
All for one and one for all.
One and one for all.
All for one and one for all.
The Musketeers.